Near Winslow in northwest Arkansas is an area known as Devil's Den. Back during the Wild West days, legend has it this area was a popular outlaw hideout, and you can see why. On today's show, we'll explore this unique cave and crevice area. Then we'll take you on a steam locomotive trip from Conway to Russellville and relive the Iron Horse days. We'll conclude with a 21st century treasure hunt known as geocaching, and we'll explain what that's all about. But for now, let's explore Devil's Den State Park. Hiking Devil's Den Trail is an excellent way to explore what Devil's Den State Park is all about. This trail is one of 7 hiking trails in the park and is a designated part of the National Trail System. Allow yourself 1.5 to 2 hours to complete the 1.5-mile hike. Park interpreters conduct guided hikes twice a week during the summer. Guiding us along is Susan Tigert.
We're in the second largest crevice. This is Big Air Crevice. Up above us there are 3 lines of crevices that run in this area. And the way this area is formed is, this is sandstone that we're on, and underneath all of the sandstone is a layer of shell. And shell is the black rock you typically find in the creek beds that's real flaky. And when shell rock gets wet, it becomes very slippery. Well, what's unusual about this part of the Ozarks is that the sandstone here is at a tilt. It's tilted at about 15 to 17 degrees. And it allows enough tilt that whenever water seeps down through the sandstone and it eventually hits that layer of shell, it causes that sandstone to fracture apart. And that happened thousands of years ago, and when it did so, it caused that sandstone to slide down into the valley. And in doing so, it caused the lines of crevices to be formed, and in places where the sandstone slid over the tops of the crevices, it formed crevice caves. So we have a lot of caves up here as well. If you're claustrophobic, crevices are the place to go and explore, and otherwise the caves are a lot of fun too.
The crevice depth and the area's extent make it one of a kind.
Well, it's very unique because there's no other place that's known that has such large crevices like these. They're sandstone crevices, and it's in a remote part of the park. Not a lot of people know that this part of the park exists. It's off of the Devil's Den Trail, not an area that's even on the map. So I like to bring people up here to let them look at this area and experience the natural beauty here. And it's a special place too because it's a place where we have hibernating bats in the winter, and the bats that come to hibernate here are endangered species. So there's 2 of them that we protect, and they're the Ozark big-eared bat and the Indiana bat. And they're very rare, so we try to keep this area as pristine as possible. And in doing so, we even installed an alarm system that runs from a cable that goes down into the cave just beneath me. And along that cable are sensors, and the sensors are triggered by light. So when you enter a dark cave, you're going to have your flashlight with you, and whenever the sensors are triggered by your light source, it causes our radios to go and let us know that someone's come into the cave. But usually we don't have any problem with people trying to enter these caves. They stay out because there's a sign at the entrance that tells you that if you disturb a hibernating bat, it could cause it to use up its fat storage, and then it would pass away, and that's not good for an endangered species. So that usually will keep people out. And if it doesn't, there's a little part at the very bottom of the sign that says, by the way, there's a $50,000 fine if you do decide to go into the cave. So that'll pretty much keep them out. Even since we put the sign up, there have been higher fines instilled for endangered bat and harming an endangered species. So the fines are now $100,000. So this is one of the reasons why we keep this area kind of in the remote parts of the park.
One of the really neat rock formations here is at Right Angle Crevice. If you stand near the bottom and look toward the north end, you can make out a facial profile, some say the Devil's Face. Devil's Den history is chock full of legends.
Well, there are a lot of legends. One of the stories I've heard is that you know, after the Civil War days, when a lot of the outlaws and looters would come through the area, they would come up here and hide in this part of the, you know, the state, because they knew that the law would not come looking for them here. That's too much work for them to come up here and try to find somebody in one of these cracks or caves or any of these places up here. So, you know, I think that that's part of the reason why they call it Devil's Den Cave. It's a very remote, rugged area, so maybe that's where they came up with the name Devil's Den Cave. So then we named the park after the cave.
Mm-hmm. Of course, one of the highlights here is Devil's Den Cave itself, and if you plan on exploring it, make sure you have at least 2 sources of reliable lights, sturdy shoes, no flip-flops, right?
Right.
Let's go check it out.
Okay, well, we're inside Devil's Den Cave, and this is the largest cave here at Devil's Den State Park. It goes back about 600 feet, and you can explore almost all the way to the very end of it. Once you get towards the very back side of the cave, it starts to close in, the ceiling gets lower, and the walls get closer together, and eventually you're on your tummy and you're crawling, and then it kind of ends. When I do a cave tour, which I do about once a week during the summer, sometimes we'll do more of them, and we'll schedule them for a group if you'd like to bring a group in. But when I do a cave tour, a lot of the kids, they like to go past me, go and touch that back wall just to say they did. You can get about 200 feet inside the cave before you have to do any climbing. It's a completely wild cave, as you can see. There's no stairs or no rails to hold on to or anything, loose rock or on the ground. But about at 200 feet or so is where the rocks are kind of caved in onto the floor, and you just climb over and through them, and then you go a little bit further, and then there's another section like that where there's a bunch of rocks you have to crawl through. And then once you reach probably the latter part of the cave is going to have a little bit of climbing that you're going to have to do as well, but you won't need any ropes or any type of equipment. It's a one-way in and one-way out cave. Sometimes inside the cave you'll see bats. During this time of year, in the early summer, a lot of the bats are out in the park and out in the trees having their pups, so they're not in the caves so much. If you come here during the late fall or the winter, you'll see a lot of eastern pipistrelles clung to the sides of the walls. The bats are about 2 inches or so, full grown, and they'll be clung all throughout the cave, and you'll be able to see lots of them, several hundred even. During this time of year, you'll probably see some cave salamanders, usually towards the entrance of the cave. You'll see some. Last week I saw a couple towards the back side of the cave, so you just never know what you're going to see and when you're going to see it. There's also cave spiders and cave crickets that you might see. Other than that, not a lot of wildlife come in here.
So explore the caves and crevices at Devil's Den State Park. But remember, don't venture alone.
All aboard! Aboard!
Back during the day, and we're talking about the steam days of passenger trains, it was the steam locomotive that was king of the rails. These hissing, puffing, steaming monsters acted as the main powerhouse in transporting passengers cross-country, pulling such widely known trains as the Overland Limited, Los Angeles Limited, Portland Rose, Penn Central, and the Challenger, not to mention the Wabash Cannonball. Betty, I understand you rode a legend train way back when.
Yeah, I guess I did. I didn't know it at the time, but it turns out that way now. There was a Wabash. I rode from Malvern, Iowa to Omaha, Nebraska. On dirty. That's the main thing I remember. It was
because of the coal burner.
Coal fire.
Yeah, coal fire and
engine, and the soot just you know, came back. It wasn't sealed. The windows weren't sealed tight like they are now, and yeah, you just were a dirty mess. That's all. Dirty, sooty mess.
Thanks to the restoration of old number 844, the last steam locomotive built for the Union Pacific Railroad in 1944, places that have not seen such a spectacle since that era are now able to.
You know, everywhere we go, there's just hordes of people standing at every little crossing, people in their backyards, on their lawn chairs waiting for us. And it's just so wonderful to watch the smiles on everybody's face. Everyone just loves to see this massive machine go by.
It is impressive. It's almost too much for words.
It really is. It's hard to describe, and it's something you really got to experience. So if you ever get a chance while we're on display to come see us, please come out. It's just an awesome thing.
Number 844, also known as Union Pacific's living legend and the grand old lady of the rails, returned to service in 2005 after one of the most extensive steam locomotive overhauls in the country since the 1950s. It now serves as an ambassador of goodwill, traveling thousands of miles across the countryside, celebrating railroad history and heritage.
Well, Chuck, this is quite the adventure. This is my first heritage train ride, and it's very enjoyable. Most importantly, it's an opportunity for Union Pacific to showcase one of the oldest locomotives in its fleet, and a locomotive that stayed active through the years. It's transgenerational. If you look here, you see young people. You see people that are more seasoned, and it's an opportunity for us to show what the railroad used to be like and what the future of the railroad is today.
There's a lot of people, I guess, that wish that had your job.
Yes, you know, I have to pinch myself every day because this is kind of like every little boy's dream and come true. And fortunately, I'm living it. I happen to be the little boy where the dream came true.
Well, the basic principles of operation on a steam locomotive are much different than a diesel. A diesel locomotive, generally speaking, the locomotive engineer doesn't really need a knowledge of the diesel engine, the traction motors, the generator, the traction computer. He doesn't really need to have an understanding of how it works. He gets in and inserts the reverser lever, complies with all the necessary rules, comes out on the throttle, releases the brake, and off you go. On a steam locomotive, it's much different. It was a much different era. Everything on the locomotive is operated manually. Most of it by the seat of your pants, kind of by a sight and by feel, by the visual appearance of the color of the smoke, the sound of the atomizer in the firebox. From the engineer's standpoint, the feel of the throttle in your hand, the sensation of the brakes, and the sensation of movement when the engine begins to move. So it's definitely a different place that you need to put yourself. It's kind of like driving any old machinery, be it a tractor, and even an older car, a Model A, Ford, you know, it's all equipment from a different period. So to operate the locomotive from either position requires a certain understanding that only comes with an apprenticeship that you can only get by being around this equipment, either on this crew or other crews, tourist railroads, for example. So as I said before, it's just a real honor. I mean, this is where a steam guy would want to be. This is the pinnacle as far as I'm concerned. We get to go on many, many route miles and traverse 22,000 route miles of the Union Pacific Railroad, representing everyone and, you know, spreading goodwill and showing off such a neat piece of history, most of which these young children, people even in my generation, have never seen anything like this. They're used to the big yellow diesels come screaming through their town, and they don't really pay them much attention. But this locomotive, on the other hand, when it comes to town, it's really unmistakable. It's hard to miss.
See him? Blow him a kiss.
Well, I think that all children today should have the opportunity to see a steam locomotive in the United States and to see it. It's a live piece of equipment, and to be able to ride on trains to get the feel of how things were back in the 40s, 50s, or even beyond there. That would be, in my estimation, it's just like going to a public library. This is knowledge that they should have, so it should be preserved.
Your first train trip?
Yes, sir.
Well, what do you think?
I like it. It's really smooth and fun.
Smooth and fun. There you go.
It's not bouncy.
So Shelby, your first time on a train. Well, what do you think?
It's better than I thought.
Yeah? A whole lot better? Is it everything you thought it would be?
Not really.
No? What did you kind of think it would be in that way?
First, I thought it was going to be very scary, and I don't know. It's just scary.
But it's a lot of fun now, isn't it? Of course, there are those.
I think an airplane would be faster than
Yeah, a plane would be faster. But if you're not in a hurry to get there, I think this is a little bit better, huh?
Yeah.
The Iron Horse, alive and well and still steaming across America. It's called geocaching, or 21st century treasure hunting. Thanks to the global positioning system of navigational satellites, which were developed for military use and became available for public use in 2000, geocaching was born. Now it's worldwide. Johnson County is the geocache capital of Arkansas. Come along with us as we tag along with one of the top geocache teams in the state, and I try to develop my geocaching skills. All right, fellas. Johnson County has some 300 caches, the most of any county.
Chuck, we're here today at north of Clarksville hunting a cache. The cache container we're looking for is a small.
Do you always know the size of the container when you go on one of these?
Most of the time on the web page, it'll tell you whether it's a small, a micro, or a large container. So it'll give you some idea what you're looking for. Sometimes it's not listed and it's a mystery container, and you don't have any idea what it is until you find it. But this shows the cache location to be about 100 foot from where we're at right now. So we'll make our way over there and see if we can locate it.
All right. Maybe it'll be a pot of gold. Yeah. The location of this particular cache is at a scenic area known as Strawberry Bluff.
Chuck, this is one of the added benefits to geocaching. It brings you to a spot like this.
Oh yeah.
Where you have this spectacular view.
Yeah, this alone was worth the drive up here.
It was. It's a very beautiful area. And had it not been for geocaching, I would have never found this spot. Because this cache is placed here, then I was able to come to this area and find a cache and also find this view. And that was the whole intention of the cache being placed here.
That's great. Coordinates to caches are posted on the website geocaching.com. GPS users can find the cache according to those coordinates. When you're searching for this, what exactly are you looking for? A pile of sticks, something out of the ordinary, or what? Some of the telltale.
Something that's out of the ordinary or out of place. Sometimes two parallel sticks in the woods will give it away. Caches are hid in different ways. Some of them are very obvious. Some of them are pretty well hidden where you have to move something, you know, to uncover part of it.
My arrow's pointing over here.
Let's wander up in there and see if we can find it.
Well, there's two sticks here. Yeah, there's a little canister. Oh, how about that? I'll be. That's pretty neat.
There's our cache container.
Nobody would never know it was there.
No, it's pretty well hidden. Chuck, this is a small watertight container that this cache is hidden in. And inside it contains several little trinkets or souvenirs along with a logbook. Now these are trade items. You take something, leave something in the cache.
And you sign that log?
And you sign your log.
Geocachers get hooked on this modern-day treasure hunt, usually through someone else.
Well, my nephew was telling me about it at Christmas one year. And he came by a few days later, stopped, and we went together and hunted some caches. He loaned me a GPS for about a week and a half. Kind of got me hooked on it, and then wouldn't loan it to me anymore. And I'd go purchase one so I could continue. That was about a year and a half ago, and I enjoy it still to this day. It brings you to places like this that I would have never seen otherwise. This is really a beautiful view from this area.
Yeah, you mentioned that that's how you got your wife involved with it, is taking her to a place like this.
I brought her up here, and she enjoyed the view so much, and I told her this is just an example of some of the cache placements and the things that you see when you geocache. And she's been going pretty regular ever since.
Our next geocache site is called Snake Tree. I guess that's the tree right there, Snake Tree. Maybe.
Look what we found.
Yeah. That's not too well hidden there.
Here's the treasure.
All right.
Colored pencils, a book on Santa Claus.
This is the one that's kid-oriented, because there's the geocaches that are kid-oriented.
A little deck of cards. Keychain. And a Slinky Jr.
All right.
Everybody needs a Slinky Jr.
That's right. Some items travel from cache to cache.
We've also got a travel bug that we'd like to put in here. And a travel bug is just it's just a little trinket with a number on it that you can track it online wherever it goes. This one here is just it's a travel bug showing a lamp post. It's got a tracking number right there on it. And this travel bug's mission is to just move from cache to cache all over the nation, or maybe even outside the country. And you can go online and watch it wherever it goes. If you put it in a cache and someone picks it up, well, they'll log it online where they found it and where they're going to put it. And it'll start accumulating mileage, and kind of makes it a little adventure on its own. and you can follow it along, see where it goes. Might even end up in Japan.
So for more info on this high-tech form of treasure hunting, log on to geocaching.com. And if Union Pacific's number 844, The Living Legend, rolls into your town, check it out for the golden age of railway travel. And if you get a chance, do some crevassing over there at Devil's Den State Park near Winslow. And to look at all of our destinations or to get in touch with us, visit our website, aetn.org/exploringarkansas. And we'll see you again the next time for another exciting adventure on Exploring Arkansas.